You are tuned in to Recovery TV, the voice of hope. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here is your host, John J. Tassoni Jr., with today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Mr. Rico Warren. And Rico is an advocate with substance use, and he's also a person in long-term recovery. So Rico, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, John.
I want you to tell my viewers today about Rico Warren and how Rico Warren got to be an advocate.
Oof, I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll try.
Oh, it's a half-hour show.
Oh, beautiful. So I'll give you a little short version of it. May 10th, 2011, I've had enough of where my life was at, and it wasn't because it was going wrong. It was more or less just seeing that, my decision making was wrong. And so I checked myself into, at the time, it was Butler Hospital, and then I ended up coming out of there, and I went over to the facility called Anchor Recovery Center, and it just kicked off from there. That was May 3rd, 2011, and just started networking with people. They kept telling me to keep showing up, and yeah, that's where it started for me, and how I became an advocate. It just was my peers. My peers just, giving me the confidence by being consistent, showing up every day. It didn't matter. Sometimes twice a day, because at night I would go to meetings as well. And networking, getting phone numbers, that's what they suggested. And then we ended up where I was actually given an opportunity to go to school. It was actually through some seminars they had. And that built me up as well, gave me a lot of knowledge on, what my recovery was going to be all about. It had nothing to do with anyone else, I just had to sit there and listen to learn and learn to listen mentality. I took a lot of notes. They all know me as a notebook king. To this day, I still do, because I didn't want to miss anything. I ended up getting some work along the way, but my job mainly in the beginning was just going to meetings and taking suggestions from people who have gone through it. One, and I give him a shout out too, because I did a lot of mornings with him, was Mr. Jim Gillen. And outside the skirt of it was Tom C. I don't know if we're allowed to mention the last
you are.
name. Tom Cordair. He was a close friend of my brother's. And, I asked, how does this work? And, just took it on from there.
Yeah, Rico, a lot of people that either watch the show or the people that I meet out in the community don't think this motto is good.
Okay.
Meaning there is hope and recovery.
Okay.
But you, as an individual, could swear on the Bible that there's hope and recovery. Because you, as someone who had a substance use issue, turned your life around, and now look at you. Look at you.
It's what a lot of people tell me. There's two things that's going to happen along the way. Is they're going to tell your story, whether it's good or bad, and how do you want to be remembered around the recovery process? Because I didn't come in here promising honesty and open-mindedness or willingness to do anything. I just wanted the pain to stop back then. And I got so much more. It's more for me is being able to survive through today, because
One day at a time.
One day, because sometimes I look outside myself and I trip, if I start planning stuff. And not that I don't have fun I have a blast in recovery. I have people that come out and reach out to me, and then able to help someone else who's struggling. That's what it's all about, you know.
How does that feel from someone who was at that place at that time, and now people look up to you and say, "Hey, Rico, I need a hand. I don't need a handout. I need a hand." How does that feel for someone who was at that point?
Well, once again, they say you can only keep what you have by giving it away, you know. And I know for me, it's gratifying, but I had to be able to give someone a hand up instead of a handout, because I didn't like the handouts. It feels tremendous. It feels good to see someone's lights come on, like mine were out for so many times, for many years, to be turned back on and being able to strive with it, you know, being able to show up for work, be dependable. I mean, that was the biggest thing too for me, is people look up, not so much up, but look at me. They don't look up to me, they look at me. And, you know, right now I have a young man that just kind of mimics me, man. Like, he's taken my God, because we learn a higher power around there, is that he looks at me to pick him up. And then I look at him because he's in the window of how I was. So it's kind of a reflection.
Right.
And, you know, he always tells me, I got your back. And it's just amazing how someone who, and that's people with we say disabilities. These people are so smart, but we won't go on the disability part of it. But I have worked with many families along the way, some successful, some not. You know, I'm not.
And I always say that. We can't save everybody.
Absolutely.
But at least we gotta try.
Absolutely.
If we try, at least you can put your head on the pillow at night.
Well, you plant the seed, and once again, I could water it for you, but I can't do it for you. And like I said, I've had opportunity to have a recovery house in this process, to get that experience. I worked in shelters, I worked in the streets. I mean, I still do to this day. We cook every Sunday for people out, the homeless. But see, for me, I know what that darkness, it's like not knowing someone's gonna come and say hello to you. So I do a lot of, and I don't wanna keep using that word there's a we process that makes this work. I do have a network of people that assist me in doing what I do. You know, and a lot of them they're content on where they're at. I don't have to say, okay, you gotta come over here. I never tell people what they have to do. You be the attraction rather than promoting, so to speak.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, you know, when this is a team effort. There's no I in team, as you just indicated. We're gonna take a quick break.
Okay.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, here with my good friend, Mr. Rico Warren, and he's an...
My first experience with addiction was actually with a family member. And I was very young at the time. I didn't really understand everything that was going on, but I knew that it really rocked my family to the core. Now, thank God that family member got the help that they needed. Sometimes you get yourself backed into a corner and feel like you've got to do it alone, but I think it's important for those people that are in that situation right now in their lives to understand they don't have to do it alone. You know, you can make it through this, you can get back on track.
I started getting in trouble when I was real young. I was bringing knives to school in the 3rd grade. I started hanging out with the wrong crowds. I envisioned that if I wasn't dead by 26, I'd be in jail. I never had plans past that. Tides give me the opportunity to start a new life fresh. So now to be 28 with 4 children, married, manage this restaurant, living in a house, it's a miracle. Life is incredible, and Tides is who I have to thank for that.
Addiction Recovery Institute, with locations in Pawtucket and Warwick, have been the leaders in treatment of opioid use disorder since 1993. Addiction Recovery Institute offers same-day admission, no waiting list. Services include medicated assisted treatment, detoxification, and substance counseling, always providing care to those who are most in need with dignity and respect. For more information, visit methadone.com.
Alcohol and drug addiction, depression, anxiety, PTSD, they can all seem overwhelming, but you don't have to face them alone. At Trinity Village, we are committed to providing addiction treatment that works. We specialize in offering integrated care for co-occurring mental and substance use disorders. We offer cutting-edge medicated assisted treatment and medication management. We are now offering virtual care to get the treatment you need from the comfort of your home. If you or someone you love needs help, call or visit us online at trinityvillage.org.
East Bay Recovery Center in Warren connects people in recovery to the supports and activities that make long-term recovery a reality. People with lived experience work to engage individuals and serve as a guide for new recoveries. The Peer Recovery Specialist's aim is to engage high-risk individuals being served in the community to vital treatment and services and follow-up to ensure the connection to treatment and services is maintained. For more information, visit ebcap.org or call 302-6231.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Mr. Rico Warren. And Rico's in long-term recovery and is also an advocate for people who look up to Rico because there is hope in recovery. So Rico, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for telling us your story. And thank you for what you do now, because a lot of people need help. A lot of people need to look at a person like you with our motto, there's hope in recovery. So tell me a little bit about your growing up. Tell me about when you started feeling not right, maybe wanted to try to experiment, because we're hearing right now, because of the pandemic, kids are left home alone, a lot of alcohol use, a lot of alcohol poisoning with these young kids. It's almost like I said a perfect storm, but it's actually a typhoon right now. It's really eating up our young folks. So tell me about it.
Well, just to give you a little insight, so I grew up in Massachusetts. I had 3 sisters, and I was the only boy of the family. I had to become a man at an early age. Single mom, she didn't have much, so in order to allow my sisters to have, I took my experience to the streets early. And I'm talking maybe 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is because I watched
Yeah,
from
you watch it
5
happen.
to 7, maybe 8 years old, growing up in the projects, I would watch from my window, and we call it the flow of how things go. And it's not so much like we're different, like I mentioned to it before, is this time around, at the end of my using, I was living in a $250,000 home, and I felt homeless. So for me, it doesn't matter where you come from. It's when does it start? And that was your question, and it's a great question. I felt that I had to do something. When the party started,
Yeah.
it was more for me that I would be the one that cleaned up.
Survival.
Yeah, survival. And then, or if I was told I couldn't do something, you're punished, whatever, however that meant. You asked me, when did it start? It started there because now all the alcohol was out on the table. And it was all around the house, actually. And I would go in, I would just take sips out of those. And when I took the first sip, it just took me to a feeling I'd never felt before. But it was also dangerous, you know. So I know for me, it started real early. I felt isolated because my mom focused on all 3 of the girls. And I was kind of like, I look like my dad, so it was like my mom probably, and I've asked her that before, you know. And anyway, so I took off from there, and then I just wouldn't listen to anything anyone would say. I didn't trust anyone because there was things that other things that happened inside. We talked about dysfunction, some things that I had no control over as a young person, but I blame myself for it.
Right.
Because I'm supposed to be the protector, you know. And it started with my mom. My mom would drink and use drugs, and it just was a loose atmosphere to where, you know, she would get on us about if she caught me smoking cigarettes. That's another thing that started after the couple of sips of drinking. I decided I'm gonna smoke a cigarette, and then I got caught, and it just took off from there. Like she beat, there was beatings and everything, but that's good that we visit the past for me, because I don't want to repeat them in the future, nor do I want my children to repeat it. So, I mean, communication, honest communication was a big thing for me. So I grew up, like I said, after that happened and a couple of other incidences, I went into sports. I played baseball. That was my first love, and I flourished in that, did very well. I had a scholarship to play anywhere in the country at the age of 15, but back then, you talk about resentments.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of started with. I'm going to put that word out there because they would send scouts out there back then. I'm pretty sure you can identify, John, is that they'd send them to the house, and then with the letter of intent, they would talk to my mom because I was too young for them to talk to. And I'm in the other room, and I see her receive money, and then none of the money goes to the house. So kind of like caught that in my head too. Like I had no respect for her. But I was always told you must respect everybody. So for me, where it became a real is when I played football and I got injured, and then I ended up getting pills from the doctors. And I kind of liked that feeling, so it was like, okay, but I didn't tell anybody. And it just snowballed from there and just kept progressing. Eventually peer pressure was waiting for me, right? And then I thought that, change of environment. So coming from Massachusetts and I moved to Rhode Island, I still brought the same person with me. I didn't know that then, I know it now, to Rhode Island, and it was like within maybe 5 months, it just was the same person.
Yeah.
I ended up getting married in 1990 when I moved up, actually 93, when I found out that my significant other was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I stopped drinking for 5 years then, but I had no recovery to it, and I hope everyone pays close attention to this, the detail of it, is I had to have some sort of knowledge of recovery to add to my recovery, if that makes any sense. Or being abstinence from my drug of choice, if you will, because it wasn't. I was abstinent from it, and I didn't understand why I couldn't sustain it. And the only way I sustained it was by having the education part of it. So that's what brought me. A couple of times, I went to several detoxes and came out and got kind of like that spin dry look. And, everything's better now. And, and it just wasn't. I had to dig inside of me,
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that when we come back.
Okay.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. If you don't believe in hope and recovery, this guy right here will show it to you right now. Rico Warren has been my guest. We'll be right back after this.
When people find out that I've been sober for a while, they say, "Oh, you must have great willpower." The truth is I have no willpower, and that's why I decided to get help. It must take a lot of strength to stay sober. No, it takes strength to ask for help. And once you're done, once you've decided that you don't want to live like this anymore, the real strength and the real courage comes when you ask for help. And then you'll find that people are willing to give that help, and that's when your life can really begin.
Sometimes everyone can use a helping hand. At Tri-County Community Action Agency, we offer support services when you need it the most. From food and heating assistance to family health and dental care, we have programs to lend a helping hand throughout the whole life cycle. From grandkids to grandmas, individuals or families. If you or someone you know could use a helping hand, visit our website at tricountry.org to learn more about the many services we provide. We know it isn't easy to ask for help. At Tri-County, we are here when you need us. For more information, visit tricountry.org or call 401-351-2750.
Serving the community for more than 30 years, 3 generations of our family at Wesco Oil have been providing reliable comfort to your home.
From oil delivery to installation and service, you can trust us to maintain your heating and cooling systems year-round. Visit us at bewarm.com to choose an option that best meets your needs. Be cool or be warm. We've got you covered. Honest service at a competitive price. Wesco Oil Company.
If you're struggling with addiction to pain pills or heroin, it's time to call Groups Recover Together. Groups will get you the medicine you need to feel better.
When I took Suboxone, I felt just like able to function, no sickness, no, anxious feeling.
And will give you the support you need to build the life worth being sober for. The time commitment is minimal, just 1 hour a week. You can meet with us in person or virtually. Call now to get started.
If you or someone you know is struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, the members of Horizon Healthcare Partners are here to help. Kodak, Community Care Alliance, Newport Mental Health, Thrive Behavioral Health, and Tides Family Services serve the behavioral health needs of all Rhode Islanders. We also operate BH Link, the state's 24/7 behavioral health emergency center. For help, call the 24/7 hotline at 401-414-LINK. For more information, visit Horizon Healthcare Partners at hhpartners.org.
With these,
and this,
with my mouth shut,
and my ears wide open,
it means that from the moment you walk into the room,
you're the most important patient to me.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Mr. Rico Warren, who is in long-term recovery and is also an advocate. So, Rico, thank you again, and your story really hits home. For hopefully that people will take a lesson from it, that watch it, parents listen to you about things, how it happened. Where is Rico Warren going from here?
Well, where I'm at, like I mentioned, I'm an advocate for people with disabilities at this moment. I've been with them since 2017. I had a little experience on critical care, people coming out from state hospitals, which is fabulous. But my thing is we need to correct the community part of it. We're checking in with our staff that people have, and just work as a team. That's all. Teamwork's going to make the dream work. That's as far as that goes with me.
I like that. Teamwork will make the dream work.
And I personally think that some of our people who have been around for a while, I asked them to step up and give the people that are just coming through as staff, mentor them. Truly mentor them. Don't just look at it as a control. Because that's the only way we're gonna knock some of this out, because it's not gonna go away.
Right.
It's not gonna go away, John.
That's the most concerning thing to me, is that 5 years ago when I got on board here, it was 1 in 5 families this was affecting.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're down to 1 in 2 families. So it's progressively getting worse. The fentanyl, the alcohol, but we need leaders like you, which thank God we have, to go and mentor these other folks that get into the industry. Things are going to start to turn around for us, the industry. I think the rates need to be increased so you get better pay, get a living wage rather than bat your head against the wall.
Right.
But again, I have to give you a lot of credit, young man,
Thank you.
from coming from where you were to today, and people look up to you as a leader, not a follower.
And I would like to add to that, if you ever want to see how I do things or where I've been, take a tour with me. I have no problem. I have nothing to hide. Everything puts on the table. That's what keeps me above water for today.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. There is hope in recovery, folks, and it's right here, sitting next to me, Mr. Rico Warren. And we'll see you next week.
You know, every week I work in stadiums filled with thousands and talk to thousands more on the radio, which means people who come from every walk of life. And I know that many, like my own family, have grieved over loved ones caught in the grip of addiction. 8 years ago, we lost my nephew to an overdose. But I've also seen in friends and even fans who've shared their stories, others break that hold and regain control of their lives. You can do the same. Please know you're not alone.
Anchor Recovery has been a mainstay since 2010 and was the first recovery community center in the state. Anchor Recovery has grown from just a couple of 12-step meetings to an entire cadre of meetings supporting multiple pathways of recovery. Today, we support medicated assisted treatment, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and physical aspects of recovery. Easy access in 3 locations. Learn about how recovery can help you. Different paths, same destination. Stop in, call, or visit anchorrecovery.providencecenter.org.
The Rhode Island Department of Health reports that drug overdose death is the #1 cause of accidental death in our state. Zinnia Exeter is committed to helping overcome addiction and the silent epidemic of drug overdose. Our substance abuse completion rates are over 25% higher than the national average. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, call Zinnia Exeter to learn about treatment options.
Local 57 Operating Engineers is Rhode Island's source for professional heavy equipment operators. For the last 120 years, Local 57 members have worked on all of Rhode Island's major construction projects, including buildings, roads, and bridges. If you're looking for professionally trained and licensed operators to run your excavators, loaders, cranes, or any other type of construction equipment, give us a call at 421-6678. If you're an experienced heavy equipment operator and would like to join our team, give us a call.
Treatment is often far more successful when individuals are offered both medication and behavioral therapy. Kodak Behavioral Health Care is Rhode Island's largest, only nonprofit, outpatient provider of care for opioid use disorder.
Our compassionate clinicians deliver the highest level of care for patients.
Through Kodak's medication-assisted treatment program, patients are prescribed methadone, buprenorphine, Suboxone, and naltrexone. For a confidential conversation, call Kodak.
The Parent Support Network is committed to supporting and assisting peers. Together, they're working with statewide and national partners to empower children, families, and individuals through dynamic supports, education, and advocacy to prevent abuse and neglect and progress toward universal health, wellness, and recovery. A location is near you. Child and Family Visitation and Training Center in Warwick, Hope Recovery Community Center in Middletown, Hope Recovery Community Center of Washington County in Westerly, or online at psnri.org.
Tune in every weekend for a new edition of Recovery TV. Host John J. Tassoni Jr. discusses information on addiction and mental health issues with local leaders in today's recovery world. Tune in Saturday evenings on MyRI TV or Sunday mornings on CW Providence or Fox Providence.